Here's one measure of how important mail-in voting will be in 2020. If everyone who has already requested an absentee ballot votes, Florida will more than double the number cast in the 2016 election. As 90.7's Abe Abaraya reports, that has researchers worried about the number of vote-by-mail ballots that will be rejected.
Emily Keenan has voted by mail in 4 of the last 5 general and midterm elections. The environmental scientist and mother of 2 living in St. Petersburg knows there's a process. Mark the ballot clearly, sign the envelope, and mail it with enough time to arrive at the election supervisor's office on Election Day.
There's always a little bit of doubt in the back of my mind, did I sign it correctly? And at one point in time, I remember going in and updating my signature because sometimes I include my family name, sometimes I just include my married name, and I wanted to try to be consistent.
In 2016, Keenan's vote-by-mail ballot in the primary election was rejected. She didn't know that until WMFE contacted her using Florida's voter records. Keenan called the rejection frustrating. This year, she plans to vote in person to make sure it counts, unless COVID-19 cases spike.
You think you go through the steps appropriately, and you want your voice to be heard and to hear that you thought you did everything right and then had it not count. It bothers you.
In 2018, 1.2% of vote-by-mail ballots in Florida were rejected. That's 32,000 ballots not counted. And for context, that year Rick Scott beat incumbent Democratic Senator Bill Nelson by about 10,000 votes.
Undervote, 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 undervote. 1 no.
In this video from the Associated Press, former Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections Susan Booker pours over contested ballots 3 days after the 2018 election. The election triggered weeks of litigation, accusations of stealing the election, and counter-accusations of voter suppression. Michael Herron, a Dartmouth College professor who studies election mechanics, has this to say about 2020.
If all the patterns stand, we should expect a lot of rejections.
Why? Herron's research shows people voting by mail for the first time are more likely to have their ballots rejected.
If there's a big surge in absentee voting, that's going to mean a lot of people who are new to voting absentee. By definition, that's what it means to have a surge in that. And we know those rejection rates are higher, usually 2 to 3 times higher.
But it's not just inexperienced voters. Voters between the ages of 18 and 21 are 8 times more likely to have a ballot rejected than voters over the age of 65. Voters with a disability are more likely to have their ballots rejected, and Black and Hispanic voters are more than twice as likely to have their ballots rejected as white voters. So what can voters do to make sure their ballot counts? Get it in on time. The ballot must be in the hands of election officials at 7 p.m. Election Day. A postmark does not cut it. Beyond that, sign your envelope. Osceola County Election Supervisor Mary Jane Arrington says no signature is the most common reason for rejections.
In our envelope, it's in red. It has everything but flashing lights, sign here.
Arrington says you can track your ballot online to make sure it's been counted. And voters who have made a signature mistake can sign what's called a cure affidavit up to 48 hours after the election.
You have till Thursday at 5 when we close after the election to get that information to us. You can fax it, you can email it, you can bring it by in person.
Voters still have until October 24th to request an absentee ballot. I'm Abe Abaraya in Orlando.
This story is part of The State We're In, an elections reporting initiative from WUSF and WMFE.